So my name's Louise Fellows, and I am in the fortunate position of working for Telfonica, and I think as an employer of a very large organisation, we do address the issue of young people into work, and we have a really smart programme thanks to Think Big and all the work that we do. However, it's not the same for everybody, and I do appreciate that. So we had some really good debate on the table, so thank you. And I may draw on some of my colleagues because they might have a little bit more experience than I do in this area. But my big passion is how do we bring business and education closer together? And I think that's, for me, where a lot of the misalignment is in this area. So that's where I work. We talked about perception. So firstly, it's kind of the whole language about tech and digital becomes a little bit boring and a little bit dull. So it's kind of how do we make the language about a coding job more sexy to potentially a woman that wants to apply to it versus a guy that thinks it's just a really cool thing to sit in a dark room and do some coding. So we talked about what can we do to make the language more sexy. Don't have all the answers to this, but it was just something that came out loud and clear. The second bit was about for education, for teachers, for really upskilling, almost having like a tech roadmap, something that allows teachers in education to sort of understand what's going on now, what's coming down the line in the next 3 to 5 years. We understand in business what our marketplace is doing in terms of the number of smartphones, number of tablets, but how well are the market insight really within the education system and having a bit of a tech roadmap that people can understand. Career opportunities really still aren't clear for young people, within the tech world. So, and I think that ties back to the language, how do we make the opportunities, really stand out for people in the world of tech? We talked about getting the curriculum right. It doesn't match the needs and wants of the young people. So the curriculum has ideas of ICT potentially up here where it's teaching Excel and the basic skills which are really fundamentally important. But actually when, my 8-year-old son's at school and he's got his iPad and he knows more to do on it than the teachers, he wants to learn about, how could he potentially learn his times tables on his iPad rather than, having, something on a bit of paper. So we talked about that. We talked about the agenda of women in tech. Really, there has to be a programme, there has to be something a little bit more about really pushing this agenda. I think there's lots that individually people are doing around women in tech, but I think it needs to come top down, and we really need to have a collective sort of set of programmes around women in tech, and how do we bring that to the forefront a bit more and making it a top priority. And having more role models linked to role opportunities. So making better links in the world of work in terms of role models, not everybody just seeing the Sheryl Sandbergs of the world, which the likelihood you're ever going to get her to meet her in a school is pretty, but in Hackney or in Shoreditch, you've got tech industries with real role models in women and in men in the startup world. Why aren't they linked to the schools and the university on a local level, and really making that a more practical function could be done. So that was perceptions. The schools and college, I think we went in the same direction as everybody else and we didn't get, but we have done number 5. We didn't do, so we have got a different one on here. We talked about empowerment and potentially a policy change, and I'm not quite sure how it would work, but investing more professional development in the head teachers. So the head teachers having such an influence on what happens in the day-to-day running of what the curriculum is and how teachers are behaving and working, that if they were empowered and had more influence around tech and they understood it and had more confidence, could they then pass that confidence down the hierarchy into their schools and make it a little bit more, sort of widespread within their schools? In terms of the infrastructure within education, ensuring that the confidence is there that if teachers are using technology within their classrooms, that if something goes wrong, and believe me, we have it in the world of business, if tech goes wrong, that they've got someone to speak to say, help, something's gone wrong, can you please come and fix it? We would have it, a big conference, business would have it. Teachers need to have that confidence that there's the infrastructure in place and the support to help them. We talked about collaboration being key, intergenerational cooperation. kids knowing more than teachers, almost having that kind of reverse teaching, you know, allowing the children to help the teachers potentially understand technology more, and then, you know, being more of a diverse intergenerational collaboration. We really felt strongly about collaboration, came out in the group, that, you know, it could be something really wonderful in education if you could really bring that together. And something, you know, that is really, you know, it's really that mutual alignment between schools and business. You know, there is fundamentally something missing. And I'll just give you an example. I've got an intern that works for me through our programme. And, you know, I don't want her experience to be limited to a large corporate. So I actually, you know, in O2 we've got 500,000 SME customers. You know, why can't I use my own customer base to help educate and educate more about the world of apprenticeships in interns? So I sent my intern into a small business for a week so that she could learn the difference between large and small business, and say to her, look, you're not limited to work in a marketing department because that's what you've learned in your studies and that's what you think you want to do, but actually go and work in a small marketing agency and see what the dynamics are different between a large and a small company. And she wrote a blog about it and she really found it fascinating. So I've almost given her too much choice now, but what I'm saying to her is don't be constrained, but big businesses can help small businesses and the education system bring those two worlds a bit closer together. And, you know, and I think there's also something about education having almost like a business development function within their schools around linking business and schools closer together, almost a commercial function that works in the local area with LEPs and, you know, the local business community, understanding the SMEs and things like that. So that bringing that whole collaboration together. So there was something more to be done around that. And then finally, we jumped straight to number 5 because we didn't know if everybody, we weren't quite sure whether to keep going, but we talked about ongoing learning. And I am going to draw on, because I was busy writing while this last one was coming up. So can you help me on this one?
Hi, I'm Andrew, and we had a really good chat on this. And we started actually with ongoing learning in looking really broadly at all the participants, including business people, and talking about this inversion again of intergenerational learning. Got a couple of little jargony terms, but they're quite useful. Reciprocal mentoring, the idea that young people mentor senior people in business. Why not have that happening in other ways, in other places, in schools, in SMEs, in universities, and so on. And peer-to-peer learning as part of this. I was fortunate yesterday to meet the global head of skills for GSK, which hopefully will remain a large British company for a long time. And she said that a crucial thing they're looking at now in all of their new hires is something called learning agility. And we were discussing that learning agility, the notion that you can learn different things at different times, is such a powerful concept for parents, for people who run businesses, for head teachers, for governance people. It isn't just that we want young people to become more agile because we've got a digital society. We all need to become more agile because the digital society is in all of us. So that was something that we wanted to connect, was that the new enablers are across society and across the economy.